What's up, guys? Got another project for you. Now, I came across these two babies. We'll get into that one later. That's a 2016 RXP-X. This one is a 21 RXP-X. Now, got it with no power. Now, I already started jumping into it, guys, and I'm hoping that this video helps you. Obviously, now we got power again. So, started with simple things first. First things first, you want to check the battery, and then you want to usually change the 30 amp relay, which is right here in the fuse box. So when you go a little further, when I first hooked up the battery, I still had no power. When I changed the relay, I had no power. I checked the two pins coming to the relay, and those two pins had 0 volts, and they should have 12. So with that being said, looked at the wiring diagram, which I have here. So this junction point right here is what was wrong, and it was in the main harness itself. So I did temporarily splice that together. That got me pretty much everything back up and running. I do crank now, it's just cranks really slow, so I'm assuming it's another grounding issue or some type of corrosion somewhere in the harness. But let's take this a little bit further and see how it goes. So we were hoping that this ski was just a power issue, but we got more problems. Wait till you see this one. That right there, if you could see it, is not good. That is not good. So my guess, this thing got waterlogged. That's the reason for the slow crank. I mean, the oil's not milky at all. So I'm gonna guess that the supercharger is probably pretty much on its verge of locking up. So going to pull this supercharger, the engine's obviously going to come out anyway, so pull the supercharger, rebuild it, and see what happens. So 1/4 inch 12 point seems to work the best. And just really to get to this one in the back. It's a little stuck. Okay, broken loose. So I'm just gonna work this out, and then we'll jump to the front bolts. Okay, so once you have this bolt right there taken out of the back of the supercharger, it's really the only E8 sticking. Remember, 1/4 inch 12 point wrench. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the two others. So on this, typically it is right underneath the actual intake. So you got one here. And then if you feel underneath your charge pipe, or say intake, if you feel underneath your intake, what you'll be able to feel is the one other E8. So about right here. And it's, once again, guys, it's feel, and eventually you get used to it. Now that you have your bolts out, you should be able to just slowly walk it. And that's how you know you got them all out. Just that little bit of motion. So the hard part, always, is actually getting it out, especially on something this corroded. So we're going to, once again, we're just going to walk it out with a little pressure on the back end. So sometimes if it's too stuck, I'll use a pry bar and we'll just pull it back. Just like that. Slow, surely enough. There's your supercharger. Supercharger looks decent except for that. And that's why this baby doesn't want to turn. That is seriously locked up. Nice. All right, so I'm just gonna confirm that the supercharger was holding up the crank. So, key in, ground mode. And we are good. So, takeaways from this video. Start with the basics, then you kind of have to jump your way in. Now, when I got this ski crank for the first time, obviously it was slow crank, with or without plugs. That sounded healthy, that I'm happy with. Now it's just a matter of actually figuring out where this water came from. My guess is when this thing was struck in the front end. It did sink, but the engine was shut off, so it didn't get water inside the engine, but it did get water inside the intake, which then seized up the supercharger. So we're gonna get this supercharger rebuilt and toss it in there, and we should be ready to go.